Hey, it's happy, wacky bill season. Plus, is the state administration going to have a lot of women in key places? There were some hints this week. We're going to talk with Aaron Brillback and Grant Herbst. It's Mitchell Talks, the News 9 sessions, right now. Wacky bills, wacky bills. Is it that time of, is it like that?
It is that time of year, man.
Jingle all the way. Hey guys, how are you?
Good, how's it going?
Good, I'm looking at some of these wacky bills. I know, I hate it sometimes when the media gets into the wacky bills that aren't going to go anywhere, but you have to talk about it, right?
You've got to.
You have to.
And we talked about it the other week, the state stake. These guys, when we've got schools that are failing, we've got overcrowded prisons, we've got issues with gun rights, we've now got issues with women who are receiving care, maternity care, and we're actually going to spend time talking about what meat is the best cut of meat for Oklahoma.
Right. What a waste of our time. That's not why people elect their legislators to go there. A lot of these bills are so they can go back home and say, look what I did for you.
I've passed a bill.
Even if I put forward a bill I knew was unconstitutional, but I did it for you guys anyway. It's a waste of all of our time. So we expect our legislators to be the best version of us, not to pander to us. SB
40 by Scott is one of those. Essentially what that does is that's going to eliminate the soon-to-be sooner, is that what it's called, program. His contention is that, and he's right, of the 9,856 people who are enrolled in this, 6,227 of them are illegal immigrants. If we do away with it, we also lose $91 million, I believe, in federal funds. Yeah. So Scott's argument is basically the federal government is holding us hostage, forcing us to care for illegal immigrants.
Yeah, I mean, we probably shouldn't use the term illegal immigrants. It's not actually AP style anymore. It's undocumented immigrants, but or people living here illegally. But I mean, yeah, the federal government holds us hostage on a whole bunch of things. That's not uncommon. Also, without that funding, we would just have a lot of kids in this state born into poverty, which wouldn't that put a larger amount of strain on the state government anyway? So this is one of those bills that is one of those things you can write home to and say, look what I did for you here, but also it's going to turn around and bite you in the end.
And at the end of the day, when women are showing up at the hospital in labor, water is broken, they're coming in, they're screaming, the doctors aren't going to say, oh, sorry, we did away with this policy. What's going to happen is you and I, the people who are paying for insurance, are going to be covering that bill.
Yes, absolutely.
So either way, we're paying for this thing.
Yeah, and it seems intentionally cruel to write a bill this way when he knows the outcome is going to be the same no matter what happens.
And at the end of the day, we're still throwing away $91 million.
Yeah, that too. That too. And there's already federal dollars that we're not taking for health care in this state. So that we're already paying for as Americans. So we're just going to do that again? That seems wild.
I mean, when you couple that with Medicaid expansion, we're talking just under $1 billion that we're turning away.
Right, and especially in a session that we're looking at that I think is going to have a lot of focus on fiscal responsibility and accuracy and accountability and transparency. This is just one of those bills that seems tone deaf.
Yep. But at no point, I think that people who are coming here undocumented illegally are going to say, oh, wait, well, they've done away with this program. I guess we're not coming to Oklahoma.
Right, that's not why they're coming here.
Not going to happen.
Yeah.
Well,
they're still going to be coming.
He came out and said it. I mean, there's been a lot of damage control since the bill came out there, right?
Yes.
Frontier had I think they wrote a follow-up to the story they did on this, where he said, well, it's 2 to 1 in terms of undocumented people, but as they pointed out in the Frontier story, it doesn't say that inside of the bill. And number 2, there's actually 3 points. Number 2 is we're going to pay for this anyway. Okay, the foster care system. And, you know, these children, when you don't have prenatal care, turns out bad, right? Really, really bad. And then there's the deal that I think is entirely accurate in many cases, where that people will say, the pro-life movement, what happens is you mostly care about kids up until they're born, and then you don't care anymore. Now, in many ways, you look at this, and if you're a rabid pro-lifer, and then you're trying to cut off prenatal care, it does make you take just a moment of pause as to what the deal is. So, but it's just one of those things. We've got a problem we're going to talk about in a moment in healthcare in Oklahoma. Evidently, all the evidence is out there now. But the fact is, this is one of those situations where they're all over the place when it comes to healthcare. There's no coordination, it doesn't seem.
But the point, too, that we seem to be forgetting here is that, yes, mom is here illegally. The baby being born is an American citizen. Their first experience as an American citizen is we're saying, not going to care for you, sorry.
Right. Right.
Yeah, not good. Not good.
And that's destined to fail. I mean, this thing, it's dead
won't even
before
get
it
here.
even, yeah. So why are we wasting our time with this stuff?
Now, why are we? Because, you know why? Because New York Times will be talking about it, and the Washington Post, and everybody's going to be talking about it because people are going, and it gets the focus off of where you need to head in your legislative session. It really doesn't serve.
And in early 2020, he can turn around and say, look what I did. I tried to stop, but I'm assuming he would use this word, he would call them anchor babies. I would try to stop that kind of, migration here into Oklahoma by ending this program, which that's all this is for, even though he knows that the people in his district are going to have to pay regardless.
Politics over policy.
Yes, absolutely.
Vote for me because here's what I did. It looks really, really good on a campaign flyer.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yep.
But otherwise, we're wasting time, we're wasting money, we're wasting energy.
Right.
Another one is Senate Bill 38, which would allow people who have valid permits, licenses, to carry weapons into the state capitol.
Right.
I'm all for it. Here's where you and I kind of disagree.
Yeah, we
a little
disagree
bit.
on this thing.
I'm all for it. My argument would be, if they can carry elsewhere, why can't they carry in the state capitol? I see your argument that sometimes tensions are heated within the state capitol, and legislators want to protect themselves from possible danger.
Yeah.
Why are they getting protections they don't afford to anybody else in the state?
Right. I think our points are the same. I think we just start at it from different sides here. I mean, I wouldn't say that sometimes. I think political tension right now is really high, and it's influenced by national politics, but it's here in Oklahoma, and we've already seen instances of political violence, here and across the country recently, and so to protect, want some protection at the Capitol from people who want to carry a gun into the building and want to do some harm. I think that's a valid point, but also you're right that then why on the other end of this are they pushing things like constitutional carry or broader, gun rights for Oklahomans when they don't actually want that for themselves, they want to exempt themselves from that. It's because they don't actually believe in the bills they're putting up in the first place.
Right. And furthermore, anybody who's spent any time in the Capitol, 9 times out of 10, it seems like those machines don't work anyhow.
Right.
There's one very large machine that they make us use with the media. That thing hasn't worked in probably 3 years.
Right.
I was just talking with security about it yesterday, and they're saying, yeah, we'd like to get this thing working. It's a huge machine, and it doesn't work. And it's people in security and legislators have admitted that oftentimes legislators will just bypass security because they're carrying guns.
Right.
So again, 2 sets of rules. One for us, one for you.
Right. And then in the problems with security at the Capitol, which are a little bit separate but related to this bill, does put a strain on the men and women of OHP who are up there putting their lives, on the line in theory, at least, and we're not exempting them from the Capitol might actually do that.
Would you rather see these OHP officers sitting, watching people walk through a metal detector all day long, or out on the streets where they need to be?
I think we've already made a distinction as taxpayers, or at least OHP has, that we need some sort of security up at the Capitol. So if we need more people to be a part of OHP, that's a different policy discussion. But we have to have security at the Capitol.
I don't disagree with that, but we've got a lot of them just sitting around watching the machines.
Sure.
I'd much rather see them patrolling.
Yeah, we could do different things with security at the Capitol and still exempt weapons from the Capitol.
And we're spending a whole lot of money on security guards up there that do nothing but sit and literally look at a machine that doesn't work.
Right.
That's their job.
Right.
Watch the machine that doesn't work.
Right.
You realize the symbolism of fake magnetometer screening the media? Just think about that one for just a minute. You'll get it. You get it, right? That's sort of. Any other wacky bills that catch your attention before we get into overall health care?
Not yet. Nothing that I can think of.
When's the deadline?
The deadline for the bills, I think, is January 17th.
Right. We've already talked about the silk abortion bill, which we know is going nowhere.
That's a perennial bill.
Yeah. Every year we see this thing come up. Every year it dies a very painful death. And it's the same thing. It's Joe Silk trying to make points, political points. Yep. And at the end of the day, nothing gets accomplished.
Right. Right.
So America's health rankings came out this week, and I don't know how to say I told you so again for the 50th time. The healthcare system in Oklahoma is broken. We're down with this, right?
Nobody disagrees.
Obesity is up. Smoking is up. Remember those commercials? Our stuff is 10 times better than surrounding states. The question is, when will the fog lift for the legislature and the next executive branch to understand that these agencies, and look, we're all for the TSET grants, they do some great work. Nobody's wanting to do away with it, right? The question is the education programs, which are on television, which are in the newspapers, on billboards, they ain't working, okay? I wouldn't say they're failures, they just aren't working. And so states who are close to us and not close to us, who had kegger parties with their settlement money, have got better smoking rates than us. I mean, this is one of those where we've got to say tell exactly what the emperor has on, and it ain't much, okay? So everything is going south. How long before, and by the way, the legislature has taken a look at TSET, right?
Yep.
But in the morass of the state health department meltdown last year, a lot of that got shunted to the side. The question is, when are we going to start addressing public health? Right now, it looks like mostly everybody wants to talk about doctor care. But there's a huge amount of health in Oklahoma that's public health. And I don't see it being addressed. Am I wrong?
No, and I don't know what the answer is. I mean, obviously, when you're running commercials that are just kind of creepy, showing creepy kids riding on roller coasters,
They don't work.
That's not going to work.
Doesn't work.
And when you talk with teenagers who are smoking, they know that smoking is dangerous. They're doing it anyhow. Just telling kids, hey, smoking is dangerous, ain't going to do the trick.
Well, how does it help smoking by running ads telling people how well that your program works and polling, say we're do 10 times better? That's not helping. That's not what was envisioned. Right. Nobody's saying cut back on the ads. Nobody's saying cut back on the grants. We need more of this. The problem is it looks like an ad agency's running the show, and it's ridiculous. The amusement park and the ice cream truck with the guy from, it's almost like it's from the movie Friday. What was that?
Yeah.
I mean, it's ridiculous. My kids laugh at it. Craig McVeigh, who's superintendent at El Reno, just says he's one of the leading people saying this isn't working.
It's not.
I think there's also something that needs to be addressed, that there is a culture of abhorrence to education in the state. By and large, Oklahomans are not open to having this kind of stuff in schools, to really funding the Department of Health and Department of Human Services to a level that would get this stuff in front of people frequently and seriously until they change their minds. And then you've got to overcome the thing that they just don't believe a lot of the science. Like, there has to be at some point that TSET and Department of Health are doing what they have been able to do with the money that they've been given, and it's just not being received because people don't want to hear it. Yeah. And I think there's a large part of that happening in a lot of places in the state.
You're saying there's some cognitive dissonance.
I believe so. I believe so.
And honestly, the message has to be more geared toward kids. Like you said, your kids see those commercials and they laugh. But when you're talking with kids about smoking, you can't talk to them about how they're going to get cancer when they're 65 years old, because the average 13-year-old can't conceptualize what it means to be 65 years old anyhow. What you've got to do is address with them, hey, at 13 years old, your teeth are going to look terrible. You're not going to be able to get a girlfriend/boyfriend because you smell bad. You're going to get wrinkly very early. These are the types of things that resonate with kids. Showing them riding a roller coaster is a joke.
We've also got to convince parents of those kids too, who look at these things and also laugh and think, well, it won't ever happen to me, and really, who cares, whatever, that this is important for them to teach their kids as well. Which is proven to be a lot more difficult than I think we expected when we first got the TSET money.
What do you think about, talking about bills, what do you think about the bill that would make it, excuse me, outlaw the use of vaping in schools?
I think that's probably good policy. I think Dossett's going to have a lot of success with that. As you learn more, or as we learn more and more from the AMA, from the American Lung Association, American Heart Association about vaping, you get two things. You get that it's probably not great to put anything into your lungs that isn't oxygen or air, and we don't know a lot about vaping, but we do know it contains nicotine, and we do know what that does to a kid's brain, especially in the developmental years when you're in middle school and high school. And so I think as we have more evidence that vaping may not be so great for people, but especially kids and teenagers, that'll probably be a pretty popular bill.
What we've seen is an explosion in the use of e-cigarettes, especially products like this Juul, very discreet, very easy to hide. We have grants. TSET has grants across the state. It's called our Healthy Living Program. They are working with schools, communities, and other organizations to improve health. One of the things that they do provide is technical assistance, and they have relationships with schools school administrators are saying this is something that is really hard to tackle. You know, you think 20, 30 years ago, you knew if a child had been smoking, a teenager had been smoking, because you could smell cigarette smoke. Juul and other vaping devices are not going to have that telltale cigarette smoke sign, and so it is much more difficult to catch and much more difficult to cut down and try to prevent. We've had grantees tell us that students in middle school even are you know, coming to school with these devices.
I think that's a message, though, that we've got to get out to teenagers
Yeah.
effectively. Because right now the teen mindset is, hey, at least I'm not smoking cigarettes, I'm vaping.
Right.
Good for
There's
me.
also an element, too, that you can hide them, the vaping. You know, if you get the Juuls or whatever, they're small, you can hide them in the things, and it's kind of that teenage thing of getting away with something that, which the Juul knows. And that's why they make them that way, and that's why they make the flavors they do. That was the marketing scheme in, you know, big tobacco for forever. Marketing kids.
They can hide it. And then your mother's real smart and finds it.
In that shoebox under the bed next to that magazine.
It can be found real smart.
Well, they design them to look like thumb drives, too.
Yes.
And
absolutely do.
a lot of
Meant to be
moms just
hidden.
don't know the difference.
Yep.
Can we talk about one other thing that's part of public health that I'm not sure the media and the bureaucrats have figured out yet? Part of public health is making sure that people are not victims of domestic violence, making sure there's plenty of mental health programs, ability to get into these programs. Believe me, it's difficult to do. We're going to spend some time next week talking about that. By the way, it's that time of season. Did you see where the Detroit meteorologist took her life? I mean, it's a terrible time for that. But I would say that if you've got violence in the home, if you don't have mental health services, if you are hungry, if kids are hungry, okay, these things are all part of public health. And I'm watching some of this stuff. I'm hearing about criminal justice reform, where that they've tried to do away with some of the advocates in the shadows talking about doing away with failure to protect, which is insane. It does get people killed. And then rolling back criminality of, say, strangulation, which is going to get you killed. And by the way, advocates will tell you, if he puts his hands on your neck, you need to get out of there. He's going to kill you.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what the data says. Yeah. So in the criminal justice thing, we're going to have to make sure that the extremes, we already talked about one, we got people trying to put more people in jail. Then on the other hand, we've got some soft on crime people out there, okay? Make no mistake about it. But this is all public health. And I just would say to our next governor, your work's cut out for you.
I think so too. I want to be, when you say the failure to protect thing gets people killed, you mean that by having failure to protect, right? That people could go to prison for not protecting their kids from an abusive spouse or partner, right?
Here's what we're upside down in Oklahoma is sometimes the perp gets less time than the person who's being beaten. But the fact that if you do away with this, and I think I've got a podcast coming out next week with Dunnington and Eccles, who are going to be doing a 780 retroactive bill. They're not going. Anybody who thinks that we should make that a misdemeanor is out of their mind. Okay, and I've not talked to advocates about it. And the strangulation thing, which was people were trying to roll that back. Everybody wants this criminal justice reform stuff to work, but we cannot have the soft on crime people running amok, making it dangerous for women and children. And that's what the advocates are saying. You can't do this stuff. And like City County, Gary Cox, people who are national figures are saying you have to factor all of these in when you're talking about health scores. Yes, we're failing. The TSET message is failing. Yes, the State Department of Health is a morass of just unbelievable mess. And Tom Bates, by the way, is trying to do something about that down there. However, you've got to take these into account when you account for public health. It's the bottom line.
The strangulation thing, Jesse Mitchell did a really good piece several months ago about that. If you want to know more about it, look that up. Look Jesse Mitchell from News 9. It was a fantastic piece about it. Yeah. Heartbreaking, but fantastic.
Well, that was uplifting.
Oh, we're with family this season. Tis the season.
Merry Christmas.
What else is really important on your plates that you're looking at as being news? Because we're about to go into the black hole, right?
Yeah.
You have a couple of weeks where people are going to be working, but also people sort of disconnect from media on these sorts of issues. The president's leaving town, right, in a few days. So naturally, that's going to cool things up there, unless Mr. Mueller has more plans, which he may before the holidays. But the fact is, there's a lot going to be going on the next couple of weeks right here.
Governor-elect Stitt just announced his recommendation for Department of Agriculture director for the first time in the history of the state. It's a woman.
And Blaine Arthur may be the most qualified person to ever hold that.
By leaps and bounds.
Man, woman, boys or girls. She may be the most effective person to ever hold that job.
I've actually worked for 2 secretaries of agriculture here in Oklahoma. For Secretary Reese, I was a deputy commissioner, so worked a lot on policy, interacted with the legislature quite a bit. Livestock was a huge component of what we did. As kids, you know, we grew up in very much a strong family environment, loved competing with both the horses and the cattle. We grow a lot of commodities, but we send them to other states to be processed. We can work with Department of Commerce and say, you know, how can you all help us recruit some of those, which again, you know, promotes economic development.
Let me just put some names out there. You got Melissa Houston, who's the current labor commissioner, will not be next time. She's going to be joining that administration, I'm sure, in some way.
Yep.
Melissa Houston. We've seen Jill Castillo from Edmond Bank of Commerce. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
She is, by the way, go Army. She had a great time last week. And you're following Jill Castillo, who's an incredible human being. You've got Donnell Harder, who's part of the administration, very close to the governor, and now Blaine Arthur. Do you see a trend?
I think he's going to stack his cabinet with women, which is interesting because we actually didn't see that from Mary Fallin. But we'll see. I mean, Sid is obviously surrounding himself with people who have experience and who are insiders, but I think he's going to need that. We've talked about that before a little bit. And people who have serious real-world experience. When you talk about Castilla and Commerce coming from banking, you know, that's some real pull that isn't political, but from action.
And I think Arthur's a good example of that too. She's 37 years old, so she's what, 17 years older than you?
Yeah, about that. Yeah.
37 years old, so she's still considered young. She gets computers, she gets technology, and her 37 years on this planet, she's got 37 years of experience on farms. She understands agriculture. She's been involved with previous Department of Agriculture directors.
She's the current executive director of 4-H Oklahoma
4-H,
right now. So serious real-world
She
experience.
knows her stuff.
Yeah.
And I think she's gonna take it far. And ag is such an important industry here in this state.
It sure is. And by the way, here comes, I need to correct fake news. Okay? Citizens Bank of Edmond.
Citizens Bank of Edmond.
Oops.
Oh, man,
Sorry.
Jill Castillo, I just might disappear over that one. My apologies for that. Well, I think that's it, gentlemen. Thanks very much for being here. Next week, we'll be talking about our holiday plans, hopefully, and what will be happening at 23rd and Lincoln. There's a lot of news coming next week. A lot of news, right?
I'm gone next week. I'm on vacation. I'm going to home see my family. So Merry Christmas to both of you guys.
Merry Christmas.
Thanks.
Well, the Packers are going to get high draft picks this year. That's one of the Merry Christmas, right? Thanks. See this again at news9.com/yourvotecounts. Also, follow me, Scott Mitchell, on Twitter. We'll see you next week.